All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to wait just a second to make sure your audio is turned on. Some of you have cool backgrounds. You look like you're at the beach. If you are actually at the beach, I'm a little jealous. All right. So I would love for you to type into the box and tell me, I'll see your name, of course, because you're on Zoom. But if you could tell me what your position is, how long you've been in real estate, and then what's the main thing you would like to get out of today's Zoom call. So your position, how long you've been in real estate, and then what you would like to get out of today's Zoom call. This is going to be recorded. So yes, it's a great question. This is recorded and it will be sent to everyone after the session. You'll actually get the MAPS newsletter and access to all of the holiday calls. So you will have all of that. Awesome. We have someone here from Spain. That's really exciting. And while you guys are typing in, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. And then a quick reminder, if you could make sure you're muted. I do very much invite interaction, and towards the end, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. For right now, though, if you could hit mute, that would help us out. And then towards the end, we'll get the interaction going. Okay, so my name is Anna. I am a Keller Williams MAPS coach, and I've been an inside sales agent, which we'll define that in just a moment. I've been an inside sales agent since 2006. So I've been doing this a very long time. I did it in a different industry. And then in 2013, got into real estate and quickly saw the opportunity to create a training program here in the real estate industry. So I trained it in the other industry. Now I train it in real estate after doing inside sales in real estate for many years. So I'm excited to be here with you today. And my goal is to introduce you to ISAs, what they can do for your team, what type of conversions you can expect. And then I also have a little script for you guys. So I have a tip for you on how to leave voicemails that actually get a callback. So you'll get a little taste as to what the inside sales agents are trained on. However, most of this call today is geared towards how you integrate them into your team. I see a lot of you typing in that you're looking for hiring practices, you're the team leader, the rainmaker, operations. Perfect. So it looks like a lot of you are looking for how to hire, which is great. I recognize some of you from the Mastering Inside Sales class, so welcome. You'll probably hear some interesting things today that you've heard in class before, so we're glad to have you. Okay, so let's jump in and talk about what is an inside sales agent. So I'd love for you to type in your definition. What I find is different teams and different locations call it different things. So today I want to define it for us to make sure we're all on the same page. So an inside sales agent technically is the person who receives inbound leads. So put in the chat box, what are inbound leads that you think people would receive? And I'll go ahead and give you some of them, is things like an internet lead, Zillow, Facebook, realtor.com. By the way, I thrive on interaction in the chat box, so thank you, you're keeping my energy up. So open houses, but the idea is that the lead came to you incoming, okay? So a technical definition is an inbound sales agent or inside sales agent deals with inbound leads. Then we have outbound sales agent, and that means they're making outbound calls. So that might be to expireds or for sale by owners. Maybe they're calling a neighborhood to invite them to an open house. But the idea is I researched and found this person's information, and now I am reaching out to contact them. Could also be door knocking. In this context, and in most places, if someone says inside sales agent or ISA, we'll call it for today, because it's a lot easier, they're actually talking about the person that does both, okay? Does both. So we find that on most teams, most ISAs do both. So that's what we're going to reference it today for this class. Now, if you define it differently where you are, that's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure for today on this call, we all had the same language and the same definition. Okay, so let's talk about how do you know if you're ready for an inside sales agent? So a lot of people ask, how do I know it's time to hire for this position? How do I know if I have enough leads for this person? All very valid questions. So we're going to go ahead and hit that today. So typically the inside sales agent is hired after you, assuming you're the rainmaker or whoever the rainmaker is, and all the sales agents are already doing the lead generating. So what we don't want is for no one on the team to be lead generating and think, let us just hire someone to do this for us. What we actually want is for the agents and the rainmaker, again, this could be a little different on every team, but we want people that are in sales as the actual agents lead generating first. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that we're being efficient, right? So hiring someone costs money. It is an investment, yes. So it's a good cost, it's a good investment. However, it might be unnecessary to spend that money if we're not ourselves lead generating. Because if you're lead generating and your sales team is lead generating, that's really the first thing that usually needs to happen to take care of the leads. However, if you're doing that and you realize we're still not getting to all of these leads and we're missing a huge opportunity, that could be a sign that you're ready for an ISA. The other one would be, and this is always a little painful, would be if you are not calling new leads at least 6 times within 2 weeks. So I want to ask you guys a question. I'm going to take down the slide deck for a minute. This is always a little painful, but grab a pen and paper, and I want you to just do a little bit of math. By the way, I love seeing all your faces on Zoom. Yay, Zoom. So here's the question, is calculate in your mind how many leads came in just this past week. Whether they be, maybe you had a certain amount of new expireds hit the market, although there's not a whole lot of them right now in most places. Maybe it's your inbound leads, whatever it is, just calculate your total number of leads in the last week. Then I want you to ask yourself, what percentage of those leads were called at least 6 times or until they picked up? So maybe some of those leads were called twice and then they picked up the phone. But what we know is when you call a lead 6 times within the first 6 to 10 business days, we have a 90% pickup ratio. Now that original research was done in 2012. And so I checked it about a year ago because I thought, is that still accurate data? That was a little bit old. It is still accurate. They re-researched it and found that if you call a new lead 6 times within 6 to 10 days, you have a 90% pickup ratio, 90% contact. Now I want you to take that number. So you have how many leads came in the last week. Then you're going to ask yourself, what percentage did you call at least 6 times in the first 6 to 10 business days? Now I want you to ask yourself how much business was lost if you were not able to contact them 6 times in 6 to 10 business days. And usually people tell me I'm getting that pit in my stomach. And you start thinking of the commission that was lost. You start thinking of the closings that aren't going to happen. And that's where we can really start to see this could be a sign that it's time for me to hire an ISA. And you just have to do the self-check. Am I lead generating to the point, like, could I have done it had I had, more of a time block for it? And if you say, I really am on all cylinders, my sales team, we're at this, and we're still not calling all new leads 6 times in 6 to 10 days, that is a huge opportunity. And Erin, to your question, it is calls, actual phone calls. Texting has its place, and texting certainly can get you to have a contact, but the research is based on phone calls. So phone calls lead. Oh man, somebody typed in that it was a $600,000 opportunity lost. Yes. And the lead, I just mean you have their name and number to answer that question in the box. So basically anyone that you had their name and number and you could have called them 6 times in 6 to 10 days, 6 is ideal, 10 is max as far as your time frame. That's a huge opportunity lost. So let's use that as a good jumping off point, that if you just realized you lost a lot of money, I see $600,000 in the chat box just from 1 week, or I see actually you said the whole year, you could easily hire someone to help take that on for you, right? Another one to look at is, are you getting to new leads within 5 minutes? 5 minutes. I used to think that didn't matter a huge deal when I was new. What's the difference between 5 minutes and 10 minutes? But what we find is there is actually a 4 times higher likelihood that someone will pick up the phone if you call them within the first 5 minutes. Think about that, 4 times more likely, that's 400% more likely to pick up the phone if you call them within 5 minutes. So if you're not able to get to leads within the first 5 minutes, that's another sign it might be time to go ahead and hire an inside sales agent. By the way, this person is a full-time lead generator. So as an inside sales agent, I would lead generate in the morning with my team. Then the agents would go out and service clients in the afternoon, and I would keep going. So I was like an all-day lead generator, just to define that a little bit more. Another sign it might be time is you're perhaps working 2 or 3 lead sources really, really well, and you realize I have room to add in more lead sources. I just don't have the time or the bandwidth. And again, that self-check is, I really am running at full capacity, and I really am not able to get to all of these leads. And then the last one, and this is somewhat up to you in your risk comfortableness. Yet, do you have 3 to 6 months of their income set aside? 3 to 6 months of their income set aside. So the reason that matters, and I think this is a really important point, is we're used to hearing it takes 3 months to build a pipeline, right? I think most people have heard that, 90 days. Well, as an ISA, what I know is I really started hitting my stride setting appointments 90 days in. And by the way, I had taught inside sales before real estate. So I really knew sales. It still took me 90 days. And that's just because I didn't have a pipeline yet. So you can have all the skill in the world, and if you don't have a pipeline yet, it's just going to take a little bit of time. So I want to help you have that realistic expectation. So about 90 days, I noticed I started really hitting that stride of setting the appointments I needed every single day. However, how long does it take for them to get under contract and close, right? So we find that usually the income from making this hire takes about 6 months, 6 months. So if you hear 3 months, yes, that's to set appointments consistently, but for them to actually close, add another 3 months, okay? All right, I see some questions flooding in. We will get to those at the end, so just hang tight. Some of them I'll answer as I keep going, and any that I don't answer, we'll have time at the end for Q&A. You can put them back in the chat box. Okay, so those are some signs it might be time to hire an ISA. So where do you find talent? This is a very common question of where do I find this person? So really the best place, and I know this from our own team and then calling and talking to other teams that are very successful with ISAs, most of them say they come from Sphere and past clients. And that's the same idea as why a buyer or seller could come from Sphere or past clients, is there's some inherent trust, right? Now, I'm curious, those of you on this call that have hired ISAs before, where did you find your talent? Go ahead and put that in the chat box. Facebook, Indeed, which by the way, if you're gonna do online ads, which is one of the bullet points here, Indeed is the most common one that I hear that works. Not that others don't, that's just the most common one. If someone says I hired this person from Indeed, and I'll say, from online, and I ask, well, which website did you use? It's often Indeed. Indeed. Cyberbacker, referrals, buyer agent sun, Sphere. So if you even look in the chat box, you can see the majority is Sphere, past clients, or referrals. And then I see several Indeed. Yeah, perfect. Alliances, yeah, which is again kind of like the referral. And that's because those people know how you work, right? They're familiar with your speed, they know you, so it helps with that trust. And what I find, this isn't on the screen, this is just a little tidbit for you. I like to call people that I know that fit the profile I'm looking for. For example, there's a girl I go to church with, her name is Allie, and she loves the Haro group. She absolutely adores them. However, I know she's not gonna come work for us right now because her focus is being a full-time mom, and we totally support that. But she always says, if I ever were to work outside of the house, I would want to work at the Haro group. We've had this conversation. So I like to call people like that and say, hey, Allie, this is Anna. Here's the profile of who I'm looking for, and they may not be looking for a job right now. So they're going to be successful next year, no matter what. So maybe jot some of these traits down real quick. Just because of who they are, they're going to be successful because that's just how they operate. They're a go-getter. They like people. Maybe they're the person that at the grocery store, they just start talking to the person behind them in line. Not necessarily yet. That's a good sign that they're good at talking with people. Tammy just waved her hand at me. That's me. Me too. So you want to describe who you're looking for. For me, I would say they run at a fast pace. So they have a little bit of a restlessness about them. They like to win. They like to succeed. And they're probably not looking for a job, although they might be, yet this person very well may already be employed. Who do you know that fits that description? And Allie actually sent me 2 great referrals from that conversation. So feel free, reach out to people that you know that maybe you even already know they're not looking because you've talked about it before, but birds of a feather flock together, right? So Allie probably knows other people wired like her, so I called Allie. Make sense? So Sphere, past clients, vendors, so meaning lenders, attorneys, they know your business. They also have an interest in you having a successful business. So they may have a referral for you. Also recruiters. Let me share a little story with you. I've actually recruited several college recruiters. I was a college recruiter from 2006 to 2013. And here's a little tip for you. Every school is a little different. So this is not necessarily true of every school. However, at the school I worked at, is the student that I enrolled did not count, so to speak, as an enrollment if they did not pass their very first class. So if you think about that, what would a good enrollment advisor have to be really good at to not only enroll the student, but also make sure they passed their first class? We're talking a 3 or 4 month process here. And if they got an F, even if the school got the money, they didn't count, because we wanted to make sure our students actually passed their classes. So a lot of times you have college advisors who are very good at long-term relationship building. They're very good at making sure they know why someone is in school, because if they are starting to fail in class or they don't want to show up to class, we remind them, hey, hey, Mike, I see you're not in class tonight. I know you said you really wanted a better career. What's going on? So a lot of college advisors are really good at digging up that motivation. And there's a lot of similarities in the college industry to the real estate industry. Here's the thing a lot of people don't know. The college or the Department of Education does not allow commission for college advisors, okay? So you have some very talented salespeople that are used to working with people on a high dollar investment that takes a lot of time and paperwork. That is a long process, usually several months, just like real estate, right? However, they're going to reach a ceiling, and I made $60,000 as a college recruiter, and I was one of the top, and I thought that was amazing money. And little did I know what was open to me in real estate. And it's really basically the same job. I'm just talking about a house versus a college degree. Does that make sense to everybody? So college recruiters can be a great opportunity, as well as military recruiters, headhunters. Really think who is in the sales industry that already is used to building a relationship over the long term. Who would that be? Headhunters, military recruiters, things like that. Obviously, there's more. These are just the first ones that came to mind. At the end of the day, I would look for someone that has a teachable spirit, who likes to hustle and moves quickly. You can train someone. You just have to ask yourself, what's your capacity? So for example, if you don't have a lot of time, you might do better finding someone who already has a lot of experience. So when Haro hired me, I already knew inside sales. I just needed to learn real estate. So the time it took to train me was less. Now, if you want to hire someone that doesn't have the training and experience, that's completely fine. You just have to know it will take more time to train them and think through what's your ability at the moment to do that. We do have a program, and I'll reference it at the end, for helping you train this person. So you're not totally on your own. You just want to think through, do I want someone with experience, or do I want someone that is from the ground up that will train them? And then John, to your question, telemarketers, yeah, telemarketers could be great to bring into this field. Yep. Okay, so what are the qualities that you're looking for? So the first thing, and this is really important, they have to love a challenge. How many of you have made phone calls in real estate, right? They have to love a challenge. It's not easy. In fact, when you read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Gary talks about the phone lead generation, lead conversion takes the most talent. It doesn't mean other roles don't require talent, but the idea is if you can convert someone over the phone, it's much easier to convert them in person. And so this needs to be someone who does not give up easily, who has talent, they need to be okay with no. So I like to ask people in the interview process, tell me about a time that you were rejected or things did not work out the way you hoped, and how did you keep yourself going? What did you do? How did you handle adversity? Okay, that's an important question. Another one is a relationship builder. So this isn't just, I'm going to get in my soapbox actually for a minute, but I see a lot of teams where they'll hire people or ISAs or agents where we're so quick to, are they doing something right now? No, okay, next. Are they doing something right now? Nope, okay, next. And what happens is you can have a lot of leads that could do something very soon, but they're not today, and then they get pushed to the wayside. Does that make sense to everybody? Excuse me. And so we want someone who recognizes it, and it's this balance, right? Because we want urgency. We want people that are aware, like, who will do something today? Because every day I need somebody who will do something today because I need to set an appointment today. However, they also need to understand the long-term relationship process. So it's a balance, right? We don't want all follow-ups, and we don't want only today people. Being a successful ISA usually looks like the morning I'm looking for my right now appointments, and the afternoon is focused on my follow-up. So they have to be good at both, okay? All right, back to the list. By the way, we're doing great on time, so we'll have plenty of time for questions here in just a little bit. All right, so relationship builder, meaning they're great at connecting with people. I personally, when I'm talking to a potential ISA, I know this will sound like a Hallmark card. However, I love to see how quickly do they feel like a friend in our very first phone call. So if they're very stiff and seem kind of cold in that first phone call, that's not necessarily ruling them out. However, it is a red flag, right? And yes, they're nervous because I'm their potential employer. However, they're going to be nervous talking to leads, right? So how good are they at sounding relaxed and personable, even when they're nervous? That's a really good thing to pay attention to. Another thing is that they need to be results oriented. So that taps into what I said a moment ago is we want the right now people. We also want who will do this later. So we need a little bit of both. The next one, number 4, is actually my most important one out of all of these. And I think it's because it encapsulates a lot of different traits that matter. However, we want them to have a teachable spirit. If they don't have a teachable spirit, or they have this idea that I know it all, or I've done this before, or, you know, I know better, or let me rewrite the script, I don't like how this sounds, well, that's a red flag, right? And I see some amens in the chat box. This is a true story. I was coaching someone in MAPS and they said, hey, would you talk to our ISA before we hire them? So I said, sure. So I said, how about before we talk, or before I talk to them, give them a script and I'll do some role play with them, and, you know, I'll talk to them for you. Well, guess what this ISA said in my very first interaction, and they had not been hired yet, and they got a script a few days before. Are you ready for this? You might want to hold on to your seats. He said, I actually really thought this script sounded dumb, so I rewrote it. I didn't like it. Oh my gosh, that's not good. So you haven't even started yet, and you have no training, and you're telling me that you don't like this script and you rewrote it? Bye-bye. Not a good fit, right? And obviously I didn't say all that to him. We were very, very tactful, but it was a huge red flag, huge red flag. So you want to look for someone who has a teachable spirit, In an interview, face-to-face, there have been times that I'll ask someone like, hey, can I give you feedback on your resume? And I'll just pick something to just pick at on their resume. I actually don't care about their resume. What I'm looking at is how do they respond to the feedback, okay? So for example, one time I told a guy, you could make your name and your address and contact info a little bigger because it was hard to see. He probably thought I was a little loony, but I actually was only doing that to see what's his demeanor as I give him this feedback. Does that make sense? So you want someone with a teachable spirit. Okay, also high sense of urgency, so they need to move pretty quickly. It's very concerning if you have people that are okay with 30 to 40-minute phone calls, they will never get enough contacts. So you want people that understand numbers. This is a contacts game. Quality as well, absolutely. Yeah, I know most conversations are 15 minutes or less. I've timed it. And to set a buyer appointment, that's also a seller appointment, getting full motivation on average takes 12 minutes. I've timed this over and over and over. Obviously, sometimes they go a little longer. However, if we're on the phone 30 minutes, we probably are talking about a lot of stuff that does not pertain to real estate. That's usually what's going on. And then follow the career visioning process, which if you're not in Keller Williams, that's a class we offer with Keller Williams, the career visioning, and you can take it online. Right now, it's great. You can take classes everywhere, right? Because a lot of things are online. Okay, let me check the chat box real quick. Perfect. Amy said, I've experienced this while hiring. Yeah, I do see a question about licensed versus unlicensed, and you just have to check with your state. Every state is different what you can do if you're licensed or unlicensed. And I know Mike is in the class, Mastering Inside Sales. You hear me say this every class, right? Pretty much every class, and they all laugh at me because I say it obnoxiously a lot. But I always tell people, make sure you know within your own state what you can or cannot say, whether you're licensed or unlicensed, okay? By the way, I was unlicensed my first year and I still had a lot of closings. In my state, I wasn't able to say things, but I could ask things. But again, it just depends on your state. Yeah, anyone that's listening who might be an unlicensed ISA, or maybe you're considering, you can still have success. Because I would just say, that's a great question. And I'm actually not a licensed realtor. That's exactly why we're going to have you meet with Haro. He's the licensed agent. So I leveraged it to set appointments. Just know it's going to depend on your state. I do recommend having them licensed. I definitely recommend having them licensed. Okay. I see a lot of questions about payment. We'll talk about that at the end. Okay. What I'm going to do, because the chat box is moving very quickly, at the end, I'm just going to ask you to retype your questions. So you might just want to wait a second. And then at the end, I'll have you type them all back in. Okay, so what can you expect? And by the way, this is true conversion for agents and ISAs. So I would write these down and then check against your own numbers to see how are you doing, okay? Because these are conversions with training. And let me emphasize with training. So for example, if someone is new in mastering inside sales, often they're at about a 40 to 50% contacts or set to held conversion. So set to held, I set the appointment and then it actually happened. I usually see people around that 50% mark, maybe 40. However, with training, we usually get them up to 70 or 80. So just know what's on the screen is with training, okay? So the first conversion is dial to contact, dial to contact. By the way, I would not recommend giving a dial goal to an ISA. I used to work somewhere before real estate that had a dial goal. It was 400 dials a day. And you know what would happen? And I'm ashamed to admit this. And by the way, I have a pretty good work ethic, okay? And even still, I would be like, man, it's 4 o'clock and I only have 300 dials. What would you do, by the way? If you were at the end of the day, you needed 100 more dials and you knew I have to leave in an hour, I picked a list that I knew did not have a good pickup ratio because I just had to burn through dials. Is that what we actually get paid for? We get paid for closings, right? So I do believe in having a contact goal or a minimum standard. However, we're tracking dial to contact because have you ever had one of those days and you're thinking like, man, no one is picking up the phone today? Well, it can help you if you look, am I having at least 12% pick up the phone? That's all that means. So contact just means someone picked up the phone and they heard my voice. That's how we're defining a contact right now. So if I'm dialing 100 people and less than 12 are picking up, and that happens consistently, not just one random day, but that's a pattern for that list, that actually would be a sign that that list might be one to switch out of, okay? So dial to contact, that's the only reason we track it. Full admission, I have had days as an ISA where I think, man, no one is picking up the phone today. Well, then I look and I'll have a 25% pickup ratio. So what does that tell you? I need to dial more, right? So numbers are great. They help us just see reality of, is it really that no one's picking up or am I just not calling as much as I think I am? So in that case, maybe I wasn't calling as much. So dial to contact 12% or more, contact to set. So that means someone picked up the phone and said hello, and then I set an appointment with them. That's 5% is average. That would be one appointment set out of 20 contacts. Now, I noticed in shift, when COVID first started, we dropped down to 2.5%, 2.5%. I am now seeing everybody back to normal. That was just a temporary dip. But just know it can change, and this is why you track it. That's why you want to track it. Now, this is the one set to held. This is the one that I see the biggest impact in the Mastering Inside Sales course. Set to held, again, is usually 40 to 50% for people that have not had training. We usually get that up to 70 or 80% very, very quickly. In fact, someone in class just mentioned that they have had 10 more helds, not set, 10 more held appointments a month after being in the class for just 3 months, okay? So that can get up very, very quickly. So set to held, that means I set the appointment and it actually happened, 70%. Held to signed, and I definitely believe the ISA is partially responsible for the signature, and here's why. It's just like in basketball, the guy putting it in the basket needs me to pass it to him or he won't get to put it in the basket, right? So as an ISA, I'm not sitting with them in the actual appointment to get the signature. However, I can say things like, hey, Sharon, when you meet with Haro, you're going to do 3 things. You're going to go back over motivation and price. You're going to interview each other, make sure it's a good fit. And then the third thing, if everything looks good, we're going to sign paperwork to activate the next step. Any questions? Any questions? So I'm going to repeat that one more time, because I know you all are probably scrambling. This is a bonus. And remember, this is recorded. You can watch back. But the script is, when you meet with Haro, you're going to do 3 things. Number 1, go back over motivation and price. Number 2, interview each other, make sure it's a good fit, and pause for a minute. That lets them know we're interviewing them as well. And I find it makes them want to work with us more. Okay, because it's not a hungry stance. It's a, we interview you just like you interview us. It's mutual. Okay, so we're going to, number 2, interview each other, make sure it's a good fit. And then number 3, if everything looks good, we will sign paperwork to activate the next step, any questions. And you say it just like that with full confidence. That way, as the ISA, I'm introducing this idea that you're going to sign paperwork. And what that does for the agent is, say that I'm setting this appointment for you. I don't want this person to show up to you and then say, what, paperwork? I'm not ready for that. And I'm the kind of person I like to think it over. So I want to let them know before they meet with you, they might be signing paperwork, which will make it easier for you as the agent to get them to sign. Does that make sense? So it's a tag team. So I want to make sure I set that up really well for you to get that signature. So it's partially me, it's partially the agent to make sure that that happens. Held to signed 80%. I will tell you, using the script I just gave you, the buyers that I set for my team signed at 90%, or sorry, the sellers signed at 90%. Buyers signed at 95% using the script I just gave you. So basically, if someone met with us, they signed, okay? And then signed to closed, 80%. The agent is totally responsible for that one. However, the ISA tracks it, because if you're licensed, you get paid for closings. And even if you're not licensed, I want to know, how many closings am I bringing to my team, right? Am I doing my job? So I do need to track all the way through to closed, because that will help me know, big picture, how many contacts do I need to bring the team a closing, okay? So again, this is with training. Now, to kind of scale this to the 30,000 foot view, if you or your ISA, so this again is agent or ISA, same conversion numbers. If you're converting at what's on the screen, okay, that would be 75 contacts, big picture, would earn you 1 closing, okay? So if you want 100 closings next year as an ISA, just take 100 times 75. And if you are actually hitting all of those conversion rates, you should achieve 100 closings. What I found is 375 would earn 5 closings. And what you want to do, the big picture here, is you want to think of what's the ROI to expect, or this is kind of tapping into how we pay them. If they're talking to 375 people a month, which is low, okay, if your ISA is only talking to 375 people a month, I would actually argue that we have a problem. They should talk to more people than that. That's less than 100 per week. That's a very, very low number. However, if they're talking to 375 people a week and their average, again, at all of these conversions on the screen back here, okay, that just means their average ISA with training, that would earn you 5 closings. So you want to think through, and actually I'd love for you to put into the chat box, if you had an ISA that after 6 months was converting at an average rate, earning you about 5 closings a month, how much commission would that bring into your team every single month? So what is your average commission? And just stick that in the chat box right there. 60K per month, right? So can we afford to hire an ISA, get them trained? 50,000, 75K. Which, by the way, if you're an agent and you're saying, because some of you I saw are single agents and you're not yet ready to hire an ISA, think about that for yourself, right? If you go back to this screen and you got yourself to these conversions through some training, some script practice, and getting better at the role, think about how much more money you would make by actually being trained in all of that. It's pretty astonishing. Yeah, 40,000. The lowest I see is 32 a month, 32 a month, which is pretty great. Hey, real quick, if you guys can make sure you're muted, I'm getting some background noise. That would be great. Okay, we did find during the shift of COVID at the very, very beginning, which again, I have found in people I coach, we're back to a normal market. I'm finding people telling me they're back to their pre-COVID numbers. Obviously, check your own market. Every market's different. Yet overall, across the board, I'm seeing that people are back into a normal market, okay? We found, however, during the height of COVID, 180 contacts earned 1 closing. Now, here's what we don't want. What we don't want is for people to look at the screen and just assume these numbers, plug them in and go. What I find is when most people enter training, which at the end, I'll tell you where to find the training. I see some questions about it. What I find is these numbers are not your numbers until you've had the training and you've been doing it at least 6 months. So if you were to assume these numbers right now, it could be dangerous for you because you'll be miscalculating and not forecasting correctly. However, with training, these are all very, very normal. So make sure you're tracking. That's the other thing, is make sure you're tracking. In the program, we do give a tracker. If you don't have one, there's one there for you. Okay, there are a lot of questions coming in. I'll go into it a lot more at the end, but it's masteringinsidesales.com. Also mapscoaching.com/group. You'll see the Mastering Inside Sales course with maps there. And I'll talk about it at the end so you know. Okay, last slide, and then we'll get into Q&A. So I wanted to give you a little preview as to what you do. So remember how I said 6 calls in 6 to 10 days usually earns a 90% pickup ratio? I'm about to give you a crash course on how to leave voicemails so that you can actually get that to happen. So I'm curious, just put in the chat box, and I would love full participation here. Put a yes or a no if you've ever had training on how to leave a voicemail. So I hear a lot of people say voicemails don't work. And I would like to just know how many of you have actually had training on how to leave voicemails. So it looks like the overwhelming majority is no, with a couple yeses. However, definitely the majority is no. I got a not really. I like it. Okay, good. So let me go ahead and share with you how to leave a voicemail that actually gets a callback. Now, is it 100%? No. However, this will definitely increase your chance to that 90% of getting contact. So the first thing is just the frequency. So even if you didn't leave voicemails, if you just called someone 6 times within 6 to 10 days, that will help increase your chance of getting a callback to 90%. The voicemails will definitely make that better. So your very first call, do not leave a voicemail. And I'm just curious in this group, how many of you call back a number that you don't recognize if there's no voicemail? And it's always mixed. Some people say yes, some people say no. I don't, because I feel like if it's important, you would have left me a voicemail. However, some people do. And so I want to appeal to the people that will call back because it's who was this, right? The other thing is it's putting my number there. So when I call back the second time, that might increase emergency, right? So if someone calls me twice close together with the same number, I might start thinking, what is this? Is this important? Okay. I see a question about pre-recorded messages, and those are actually not something we should be using at the moment. They're creating legal challenges for people. Okay, so we need to actually verbally leave the voicemail with our live voice, not doing a recorded number, okay? Or recorded voicemail, excuse me. Okay, so voicemail 2 through 6. Voicemail 2 through 6. This is where you're gonna leave your 5 voicemails. So voicemail 2, which is call 2, I should say. Voicemail 1 is call 2. All the way through your 6 calls, you will start leaving voicemails on the second call. So here's how you do it. Your first voicemail is somewhat general. So let's say it's an internet lead. So I might call and say, you know, hey, Kamala, this is Anna calling from the Haro group. And I'm calling you today because I saw that you were on our website last night checking out houses. Call me back today so I can put you on an internet search to save you time. My number is blah, blah, blah. Call me by 5 o'clock. Okay, so it's somewhat general, and I'm doing that again to appeal to curiosity. If they are an expired lead, which we don't have a lot of right now, however, we believe that they're coming. Once the market shifts more to a buyer's market, we're going to get gifted with expireds. So a good voicemail for expired, the first one might be, you know, hi, this is Anna from the Haro group. Thank you so much for listening to this message. I was calling to see if your home is still available. Call me back today by 5. My number is. Okay. And again, that's just a general message. Now, voicemails 2 through 4, this is where I'm going to get more specific. And what I want all of you to think of are what are 3 buyer value adds? What are 3 seller value adds? Because what I would like you to do is have voicemails that you can just reuse. Now, again, you're going to be leaving them one by one with your live voice. We're not going to pre-record these voicemails. Yet if I have a standard voicemail that I use over and over and over, I'm going to deliver it with excellence, right? Instead of if I have a different voicemail all the time. So let me ask you guys, put it in the chat box. What is a value add that you think most sellers would like? Whether they're expired, whether they're for sale by owner, whether they're an internet lead or a sphere person. What is something that most sellers like? Value, comps, buyers ready to tour your home, number of houses sold. Yeah. So I'll pick one of those. Let's take, let's do home value, okay? So my first voicemail, I might say, and I could use this for all sellers because all sellers like to know the value of their home. So my second voicemail might say, hey, Mike, this is Anna calling from the Haro Group. And I was calling today to offer to figure out the value of your home. I saw you're looking to sell. Call me back today so we can discuss value. My number is blah, blah, blah. Call me today by 5. Okay. Another one would be know your stats. But for example, I used to know that the Haro Group sold homes 3 times faster than other agents in the area. So my voicemail could say, maybe voicemail 3 is, hey, Cindy, this is Anna calling from the Haro Group. Hey, I wanted to let you know our team sells homes 3 times faster than other agents in the area on average. Call me back today so we can talk about how to save you time on the market. My number is blah, blah, blah. Call me by 5 o'clock. Now here's the big picture. So write this down for voicemails 2 through 4. I'm leaving a value add, but it's real short, right? We sell homes 3 times faster. Call me back to learn more. That's essentially what I'm saying. Versus what are most voicemails, right? Most voicemails are, hey, it's me, call me back. And then the next one, hey, it's me, call me back. And we just do it over and over and over, right? Hey, it's Anna from the Haro Group, call me back. Hey, it's Anna from the Haro Group, call me back. And what we instead want is a different value add on each call so it appeals to their interest. Maybe I also could say, and this would work for buyers and sellers, maybe I'll say, hey, Jacqueline, this is Anna from the Haro Group. And I wanted to let you know we have a 5-star rating on Google, which means we take great care of our clients. Call me back today by 5 so I can provide that service for you. My number is, I look forward to hearing you by 5. Okay. By the way, why do you think we put a specific time for the callback? Y'all are intelligent people. What's the reason? Excuse me. Call to action creates urgency. Absolutely. Because you're done by 5 p.m. Yeah. So think about taxes, and everybody has a different personality. Yet how many of us wait until April 15th or this year, maybe July 15th to do our taxes? However, we do it, we file the paperwork because it's the deadline. So we do it, right? So if we give a deadline, it creates urgency to actually get it completed. What we don't want is call me back when you get a moment, or if you get a chance, call me back. We want to be directive. So Kamala, this is Anna from the Haro Group. Call me back today so I can explain how we can earn you 3% more on your home sale. My number is call me by 5. It's a much stronger call to action. So I actually shadow an ISA as she makes calls, and she always says 11 o'clock. I don't know why, but she says 11 a.m. I look forward to hearing from you by 11 a.m. Truthfully, I thought that was a little bit of a weird time. I just didn't give her the feedback. I thought, let's see how this goes. I legit heard people calling her back, apologizing that they didn't call her by 11 a.m. Okay, so it works. Give them a deadline. They may not call you by the deadline. It will just create urgency, and that's all that we're really looking to do, is to create urgency. So the last voicemail, voicemail 5, this one, you want to make sure you're smiling when you say it, because if you don't, the words could come across not friendly. Okay, so you definitely want to make sure you're smiling when you leave this 5th voicemail. And what you want to do is say, hey, Mike, this is Anna calling from the Haro Group. And I have left you a bunch of voicemails this week, and I don't know if you're busy or just not interested. Would you let me know either way? Just call me back by 5 and let me know if you're busy or just not interested. That would be really helpful. Thank you. Here's my number. By the way, remember to leave your number. I told my manager once, I'm like, no one is calling me back. And this was before cell phones were quite as popular as they are now. And she listened. She's like, Anna, you're not leaving your number. So make sure you leave your number. Okay. Minor detail. So the last tip for a good voicemail. So let me recap real quick, and then I'll give you the last tip, and then we'll go to Q&A. 6 calls in 6 to 10 days. Out of those 6 calls, you will leave 5 voicemails, okay? Voicemail 1 is general. Voicemail 2 through 4, you leave a value add of some sort with a specific time to call you back. And voicemail 5 is the friendly, make sure you're smiling. Are you busy? Not interested? Let me know what's up. I find a lot of people call back on that 5th voicemail. And I think it's because it's the humanizing one. This is a real person. It's not just a recording. They tend to call back. And I also find a lot of people will call back somewhere between that 3rd and 4th one, okay? Very frequently, I'll teach this in the Mastering Inside Sales course, and then I'll get an email a couple days later and say, I felt like it wasn't working and I'm on my 3rd or 4th voicemail and now I'm getting the callbacks. So you definitely just have to be patient with it, and it does work. It does work. Okay, last little tip is start your calls a little, or start your voicemails a little differently. So think about it. I don't know about you. I currently have 3 unread voicemails and I don't care. And I'll listen to them probably all on one day in about a week. That's just, is that okay to say? It's not my business line. I listen to my business line, but my personal line, I don't have a lot of urgency about it, right? So if every voicemail that you've left has started with, hi, this is Anna from the Haro Group. Hi, this is Anna from the Haro Group. What are they going to do after the 3rd or 4th voicemail they're listening to back to back? Delete, delete, delete. So what I recommend is maybe you do one voicemail where you say, hey, Barb, I just wanted to let you know we just sold a home in one day for full asking price. Call me back so we can do that for you. Oh, by the way, this is Anna from the Haro Group. Okay, so switch that up a little bit. That'll increase your voicemail callbacks. Okay, that was a quick crash course. In the actual program, we spend a whole day just going over voicemails. So you just got a quick snippet. So a lot of you have been typing in the box, where do we find out about this course that you keep telling us about? So let me instruct you where to find that right now. As I do that, you can put into the chat box what your questions are, okay? So we have 2 courses. One is called Mastering Inside Sales. I actually recognize some of you from that course in class today, so feel free to type in the box, tell people what you're learning or what you think of the class. Essentially, we meet 3 times a month for 6 months. So you have a total of 18 webinars. They're all recorded. And we really go over things like what I just taught. So how do you leave a voicemail that gets a callback? Except we spend a whole hour so they actually know what they're doing. We also meet over Zoom. And it's very much like this, and I love it because it creates a community. So we have breakout rooms, we practice. I put them in little rooms where it's a smaller group so they can practice. We have a script partner sheet specific to people in the course. And big picture, what you get is 19 language patterns. So things like, how do you open up a phone call so they'll actually want to stay on the phone with you? A little tip, don't say, how are you? Because it's kind of meaningless, right? Instead, say, thank you for taking my call. So it's, hey, Mike, this is Anna from the Haro Group. Hey, thank you so much for taking my call. Now, if I just expressed gratitude for someone taking my call, how easy is it for them to hang up on me, right? They might still hang up on me. It will reduce the hangups. So we go over things like, how do you start a call so they stay on the phone with you, all the way through the signed agency agreement. Because again, I believe the ISA is responsible for the signed agency agreement as well as the agent. It's $199 a month, and our next class is January 13th, which sounds far away because it's January. It's only 2 weeks. It actually starts 2 weeks from today. That's crazy. So 2 weeks from today. The way you find it is go right here, mapscoaching.com/group, mapscoaching.com/group. And I'll go ahead and show you the website real quick, and then we'll do Q&A. And I just saw a question, what time are they? I should have looked this up before the call, and I don't want to pull up my calendar while I'm talking to you. The one on January 13th, it's 2 to 3 Eastern, 2 to 3 Eastern, okay? Which would be 1 to 2 Central. They are all recorded. I recommend you join us live because we have a lot of discussion, Q&A, things like that. Just know it is recorded. So where you go to find that is you go to mapscoaching.com/group. And it's actually up here, the top box on the right, Mastering Inside Sales. That's where you click on it. We give you 3 different electronic trackers. So you know how earlier I was talking about conversion rates, and if you don't know, make sure you're tracking. Guys, when I started, I did not know how to track. In fact, I resisted it for about 2 months. And I provide trackers for all that stuff in partnership with Maps. So we have the trackers. We give you paper trackers. We give you electronic trackers. Here it is right here. The other place you can go that takes you to the same course, it just has more info. If you go to masterinsideSales.com, masterinsideSales.com, I'll put that in the chat box for you. It just takes you to a page that has a bit more information, So it is the same class. It's a MAPS class, masterinsideSales.com. I just put that into the chat box for you. Okay. The other course I want to make sure you're aware of is we do have a class for the leader. So if you say, you know, I want to be a good leader for my ISA, how do I provide good culture? How do I train this person? All of that stuff, this would be where you can go. It's a class called How to Hire, Train, and Retain Inside Sales Agents. And that one will be in April. And same thing, you go to mapscoaching.com/group. Okay. And we already are having people sign up for that class. It's 5 weeks, one time of $199. Okay. Everybody good? Any questions on the class before I go to the other Q&A? Okay. Tom said, are they recorded? Yes. Oh, do they expire? You'll have access to the recordings for 60 days after the very last class. So it's a 6-month class. At the end of the 6 months, add another 60 days. So it's really 8 months that you have access to the information. I have people that have asked me, I have someone that's starting till February. Should I go ahead and sign up? I would say yes, because they'll start in February, but they'll have 3 hours already there. 3 hours already there. And I don't know when this class will be offered again. So yeah, if you have someone starting in first quarter, I would go ahead and sign up and just know that you'll have the recordings. Okay, and I don't know when it's offered again. I see your question, John. I don't have a date for you. Okay, let's get to some of the other questions here. And I'll just start with the questions here towards the bottom. Yes, this particular presentation is recorded and will be sent to you. I saw a lot of questions about compensation. I think that was the most common question I saw. So let me go ahead and hit that for you. And yes, again, this is recorded and will be sent to all of you. So you'll get this recording today. Yeah, I don't know when you'll get it, but you will get it from this today. You'll get it in the MAPS newsletter. Okay, so compensation. So typical compensation, and it's going to be different if they're licensed or unlicensed, okay? If they are licensed, what we recommend is a base pay of commission. I said that wrong. Scratch out, ignore. A base salary, not a base pay of commission. They would get a base salary. And what that usually looks like for a licensed ISA is anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 base pay. Most common is $2,000. However, it just depends on where you live. You know, if you live in California, it's a much higher cost of living. You might be closer to that 3,000 mark, right? So 2,000 is the most common base pay that we see for an ISA. And then they get commission upon closing. And that's why you cannot pay commission if they're not licensed. So if they're licensed, they can get commission, which is what we recommend, because then it creates this unlimited earning potential. Now, I was unlicensed my first year. I was still really happy with my income. However, when you're licensed, you can get commission. So to recap that, if they are licensed, a base pay of $1,500 to $3,000 is average. $2,000 is the most common. And then commission would be 5 to 10% of your commission. So if you have a $10,000 commission, they would earn, $500 if they're at that 5%. And it's per month. Man, I would love to be an ISA and make $2,000 a week salary. But here's the thing, is you make more money as I bring you closings. So that's how I looked at it, is I could have however much money I wanted as the team had money, right? And it makes it less risky for you. So it's not really that big of a salary. $2,000 base pay, again, is the most common that we see. That's really not very big. That's $24,000 a year. That's not a huge base pay. However, a lot of you said you would earn $30,000 to $50,000 a month more if you had this person, right? So $2,000 a month base pay plus commission. So that way your risk is lower because you're not committing to this enormous salary. However, the ISA makes more money as they make you more money. which makes sense, right? So it helps it kind of minimize the risk there. And then a 5 to 10% commission rate. If they're not licensed, we usually see a higher salary. And then you would just want to check in your local area on bonusing, things like that. I would say talk to a local broker or real estate, like an employment attorney in your area, to find out how that would work for your area. And I cannot speak to each state for unlicensed because I don't know each state and each law, and I don't want to answer and then put you at a liability if it's the incorrect answer. So just check with your local powers that be if you have unlicensed ISAs. Gregory, yes. So 5 to 10% of the total commission you make. Yep. So whatever the team gets, the ISA would get 5 to 10% of that. Again, customize this for your team. These are just general. You know, these are very common models. Okay, another question I see on outsourcing ISAs. Gosh, it's a good question. Every now and then I'll hear of people that have a good experience with that. Most commonly, I hear that it is not the best experience. What I find is it can work on a short-term basis. However, I'll just speak, and this is my opinion. There are other opinions different than mine. This is just my experience. I actually was an outsourced ISA for a while. A lot of people don't know that. When I was in the college industry, I lived in South Carolina and I enrolled for a school in Virginia. And what I'll tell you is ISAs are really selling the agents, right? I'm actually selling, it sounds funny to say that, yet I'm selling the idea of working with you. So the more that I know you, the more that we have rapport, it's easier for me to get buyers and sellers to understand why they should work with you. Does that make sense? So for example, say that I'm in the office with Diane and I just heard Diane say, guess what, guys? I just came back from an awesome appointment and or maybe I just got my contract back and I just—
oh, my head hurt.
Well, make sure you hit mute. Maybe you would say, I just want an offer against 6 other people. I just want an offer against 6 other people. Well, Diane, I can now say when I'm talking to buyers and sellers that day, man, you would want to work with Diane. She just today won an offer against 6 other people. So if I'm actually in the office with you, it's easier for me to be able to say that, right? Okay, you guys all look so entertained. Okay, what other questions do we have? Where do the numbers to dial come from? They can come from a lot of places. So I would say first, let me give you some general advice without knowing your team specifically. I find a lot of times we hire ISAs and we immediately want to get them doing new lead sources, which might be appropriate. However, when we look at the database, like if I'm coaching a team one-on-one and we look at your database, we might find that you have 7,000 leads and a lot of them have not been contacted. Definitely not within the last quarter. So I always say when you have a new person or even just yourself, maybe you're not going to hire someone after this webinar today, yet you're realizing, man, I need to get my conversions up. What do I need to do? I would actually say first, look at your database. Most appointments, over 70% of your appointments will come from the people you already have in your database. And I don't mean Sphere specifically, I mean all of them. So past internet leads that you haven't talked to in a while, old leads, just you need to get back in touch with. 70% of appointments come from follow-up calls. So I would actually say before you go and find new people to call, just make sure the people you already have are being serviced. Okay. I see some questions about the do not call list. I'm glad you're asking. We definitely do not want to call the do not call list. It's very important that you follow that. So do not call the do not call list. And a lot of services that provide numbers for you will scrub those numbers, but I would just ask them, do you, if you're thinking of buying a list from someone, just ask, how do you make sure that we're not getting a list of people that are on the do not call list? Okay. So I see a question, is your program phone-based or are you able to offer tips for converting leads over text, Facebook Messenger, all that? Yes. Let me put this back up for you. So again, back up on the pages where to find the programs. And what we teach is the language patterns, and you can use them in text, email, Facebook chat. And that's what I love about language patterns is they don't really change depending on the method, right? If you're emailing someone, I would want to start off and say, what has you thinking about moving? Let's start with motivation. If I'm texting someone, I want motivation. What has you thinking about moving? And same thing on a phone call. Now, I will tell you, I definitely believe that you can contact people over text, email, Facebook Messenger, especially these days. It's really easy to do that. However, I believe on motivating people to get on the phone with me. And here's why. If you think about it, how long does it take to fully pre-qualify, understand motivation, do all the things you need to do? Remember, on the phone, it takes 12 minutes on average. So if I were to turn that into a written back and forth conversation, it's going to take that probably at least 45 minutes if we're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I look at it this way. I love text, email, Facebook Messenger with the goal of getting them onto the phone within 3 messages. That's just my personal thing. I'll do 3 messages. And then I'll usually say something like, I can help you so much better by hopping on the phone. And I know moving is a significant decision and it's easy to misunderstand each other over text. Let's hop on the phone or just call them. Because if they're texting, think about it. If you're texting with someone and they call you, I know if that happens to me, I know that they know I'm available because I was just texting them. So I'll just pick up. So I do believe text, phone, and we do the language patterns you can use in those contexts. I just believe in getting people on the phone as fast as you can. It's easier to build rapport, it's faster and more efficient, and it makes sure you're not misunderstanding anything. Okay, perfect. We are out of time, and I want to respect your time. To learn more, again, just go to mapscoaching.com/group, and you will see in the upper right, you will see the Mastering Inside Sales course that starts in 2 weeks. Again, it says January, and that sounds far away. It's only 2 weeks away, which is crazy. And then you will also see the class, How to Hire, Train, and Retain Inside Sales Agents, further down on the page. That class starts in April. Perfect. Emma, I'm so glad to hear. And I apologize that I couldn't get to all of the questions. My heart is to help you with all of the things, and we have 1 hour. So hopefully this was helpful. Why don't you put in the chat box, what was your biggest takeaway from today? And then we'll hop offline. So what was your biggest takeaway from today? Oh, Emily says she offers different commissions. Voicemail scripts. Clarity on what? I'm curious. Oh yeah, no robocalls. Yes, that's really important. Definitely make sure that you're moving towards actual phone calls with actual voicemails that you're leaving, not pre-recorded. Good takeaway. By the way, if you have questions about the legalities of things in your area, check with someone local. It's not even always by state. Sometimes it depends on your very specific location, like your district. So I would just check with someone very local. Your local broker should know. So if you're hearing this and you're like, ooh, no pre-recorded voicemails or what, the do not call list, check with your local real estate broker. And if they don't know, they'll find someone. Check with your local real estate commission. It's definitely local. Yeah, track your numbers. I love this takeaway. Just call. Yes. I used to think if this call goes sideways, I could pass them in Trader Joe's in 10 minutes and we would not recognize each other, right? They wouldn't know. We might strike up a conversation, in fact, and we would not know that we were the 2 people just on that phone call. What's the worst that'll happen? All right, guys, I want to let you go. It's been great seeing you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your holiday season, and hopefully I will see you in class. It'll look just like this with actually a lot more interaction than we had today in 2 weeks. All right, bye, everybody.